Hello, everybody. Let me start off by saying that I am not trying to offend or judge anyone. This is just my opinion based on historical and biblical research. I'm only trying to contend for the faith as Judah or Jude, the brother of Yeshua, said we are to do. And everything that I'm about to say lines up with the book of Judah or Jude, even though we're not really discussing the book of Jude. We are discussing the warning given by Judah. All right. It is very important because in the book of Judah, it describes a mystery religion that has infiltrated the faith, not even 30 years after Yeshua walked the earth. So in order for us to recognize our enemy or who we must contend with, all right, you must know your enemy, or should I say enemies, plural. Because what if I told you that Satan is just a title, but only King Satan has the title of Ha-Satan, or the Satan. Just like there are many Elohim or El, all right, but Baal means the El. And I already covered how the Lord said to Moses that your ancestors called me Baal Shaddai, all right. And we also talked about how in the book of Jonah, the people of Nineveh called the Lord Baal Elohim, all right. And we discussed how Elijah's name literally translates to El is Yah. Now, you can disagree with me all that you want, all right, but it's in the Torah and the Tanakh right there for the whole world to see. So El means deity. Elohim means deities or deity of deities. But El means the deity, but Elohim means the deities of deities. All right. And it does not literally translate the Lord. However, that can be applied because it is a title. Anyone who competes for these titles over Yahweh are called Satans. Now, armed with that knowledge, we can begin to remove the veil that our enemy has been using to contend with the faith or infiltrate the faith, all right, and hide right in plain sight. So the real question is, who is Ha-Satan? Now, most people believe that Ha-Satan is the serpent that was in the land and the Garden of Eden, all right. The serpent is a Satan or a Satan, but not Ha-Satan. Now, most people believe that the serpent was a snake. However, the title of serpent applies to all reptiles, but the word used for serpent in Genesis is Nahash, which many conclude means large serpent or even dragon. Now, in theory, this creature wanted to be worshipped as a deity and did not follow the orders of Yah. And of course, he convinced Adam and Eve to also go against Yah's order and become deities. Now, according to Yah in the Torah, Adam and Eve did just that. In a sense, Adam and Eve became the first pagan deities. Now, I know you're like, whoa, I know you aren't saying that. I know you aren't saying that Adam and Eve were false gods. Now, look, before you judge me as being blasphemous, let me remind you that it is Yah, the Elohim plural, who said they have become like one, Echad, one of us. So keep that in mind. Yah has more than one spirit. And even though Yah says, do not worship other Elohim before him or put any other Elohim above him, he does not deny the existence of other Elohim. However, he makes it clear that he rules over them because he is the one who created them. If we look at the book of Psalms, chapter 82, all right, we can see that the Lord says that he takes his place among the congregation of El, or you could say the divine, but El would be like, the place where the Els reside, all right, and that he judges the Elohim. All right. This is the Lord literally saying that there are angels who are worshipped as deities. All right. So if we look at chapter 82, verse 6, we also see that Yah calls some human judges, well, these are judges who are abusing their position of power, but Yah refers to them as Elohim, just like the angels, because we are all children of the Lord. But as you can see in verse 7, humans who consider themselves deities or human deities die like men. So if the Lord said it, it's not blasphemous. So the question is, how does Yah feel about the other elves, or feel about the worship of the other elves? And it should be clear. The Lord does not like sharing his worship with any of his creations. All right. He is very jealous of it, and he has every right in creation to be. Any spirit, human, demon, angel, or even an animal can be worshipped as a deity. But by doing so, you have stepped into an open arena, royal rumble of deities competing for the worship that belongs to Yah. Yah makes a very scary promise. Okay, he makes a very scary promise to all you deities or will be deities. He says, I am the first and I am the last. Now, this is a warning to all deities that in the end there can be only one, and that anyone claiming these titles will either relinquish their position as the Elohim or be destroyed by Yah. And I'm not trying to get too far off topic, but I feel like now that we're having this discussion, this needs to be said, because in this popular common idiocracy that we call a society, I have heard things said by people like, oh, well, why would the Lord be jealous of me? Or things like, who am I that the Lord should be jealous of me? All right. Now, I'm sorry, but these are phrases that only people who are historically uneducated would say, okay? Because the truth is, why would he be jealous of you? All right, that jealousy is historically reserved for entities who compete with the title of ruler of the universe. To say Yah will be jealous of you is to say that you are on the same level as the creator of the universe, and you are not even an angel. I mean, you will die like an ordinary man. You don't, or woman, whatever, because you don't even have the power to bring yourself back to life. You're not even on the level of the Satans. Even they consider you an animal. And the thought that you would even consider yourself to be a contender for ruler of the universe has got to be one of the biggest jokes in creation. All right, like I said, I'm sorry for getting off topic, but that had to be said. Now, as we were originally talking about the serpent is considered a deity and a Satan, but he is not an angel, he is an animal. And the curse placed on the serpent is a literal curse. It's not a metaphorical one, because it is a curse that's given to an animal, not an angel. To crawl around on your belly and to eat dust, get dust all in your mouth. This is something that affects all reptiles, except dinosaurs, and that's for another discussion. The other curse on the serpent was that the offspring of the woman would be the enemy of the serpent's offspring, and that the male offspring of the woman would crush the serpent's head. So most biblical historians and scholars would agree that the serpent that is in the Garden of Eden and the Leviathan that is described in the book of Job are the same creature. All right. Now, even the Lord says that the behemoth follows the ways of the Lord, or that he is chief in the ways of the Lord, as you can see in the book of Job, chapter 40, verses 15 and 19. But in chapter 41, the Lord describes Leviathan as a huge, unstoppable dragon that rules over the children of pride. Now, most scholars will agree that pride was the original sin that was committed by Adam and Eve in the garden when they ate the fruit. So here we can see that the rule over the original sin is credited to Leviathan, who is worshipped by the children of pride. Now, Yah, who at this time is called Shaddai in the original text, because Job is the oldest book placed in the traditional Bible right now. But Shaddai says only he can approach it with the sword, letting us know that no man can kill it but him. So we can also assume that Leviathan has an almost infinite lifespan if not killed, meaning in theory, if it was still alive, it most likely would be worshipped to this day. Now, the serpent is a Satan, but he is not Ha-Satan. Now, Hasatan is described as a dragon, but not the Leviathan, because in the word you can see that they meet two different ends at two different times. Now, if we go to the book of Psalms, chapter 74, verses 13 through 14, the Lord says that He will crush the heads of the water dragons, and He will crush the heads of the Leviathan into pieces and feed his body to the remnant. Now, the crushing of the heads lets us know that the Leviathan and the serpent from the Garden of Eden are most likely the same creature. Now, in the book of Isaiah, he says that this will happen on what I like to call the great and terrible day. All right, Isaiah 27:1, it says, "In that day, Yah will punish and kill Leviathan, but the angelic dragon known as the devil and Hasatan will be cast into the bottomless pit by another angel who binds him in chains for about 1,000 years, and then he will be released after a millennium." All right, as stated in Revelations chapter 20, verses 1 through 3. So as we can see, or as we can conclude, that the Leviathan is not Hasatan. He is not the Hasatan who will be tossed into the pit for a millennium. So who is Hasatan? Well, some people believe that Hasatan is Azazel. All right. Now, many of you may already be familiar with this name. Some people, if you're not familiar with the book of Enoch, some people believe that Azazel meant rock or roughy cliff or jagged cliff, where they would perform the scapegoat blood sacrifice. All right. However, I don't really know how that came about, but Azazel is one of the angels who was worshipped as deities before the great flood, according to the book of Enoch. So if we go over to the 10th chapter in the book of Enoch, you can see that the Lord has Azazel bound and then buried out there in the wilderness. All right. And the Lord pretty much says that it was Azazel that corrupted the earth. All right. And so he's ascribed Azazel with all of that sin. All right. And the Torah kind of confirms this, because Yah tells Moses in the book of Leviticus, chapter 16, to make an atonement for the sins of the children of Israel by killing one of the goats, right? And using his blood to clean the altar, and then taking all of the sin of the people and placing it on one goat, all right, and then releasing it out into the wilderness for Azazel. So if we're looking at the information that's provided to us within the word, we can see that Azazel was a Satan, but he is not Ha-Satan. All right, we know this because Ha-Satan is an active title, but Azazel is not active. He is bound and he is buried out there somewhere in the wilderness until Judgment Day, and he cannot claim the title of king of the Satans. All right, so the book of Enoch gives us some clues as to who the Satans are. In chapter 18 of the book of Enoch, Enoch is shown a vision of Sheol, or hell, but this is a future vision. And he sees 7 huge stars rolling around in some fire in pain. All right, now Uriel tells Enoch that the stars are angels that disobeyed the Lord and went against his order. Now, these 7 angels are not the same angels in the book of Revelations that hold the 7 candlesticks and the 7 stars. All right. And are the 7 spirits of Yah. Most people think that he is just 3, like the Holy Trinity, but actually in several books it describes the Lord as having 7 spirits. All right. This is it is safe to say that those other 7 angels that was talked about in the book of Enoch are actually probably the 7 spirits or 7 angels that tried to rival the 7 spirits of Yah in an attempt to usurp him for the title of Elohim. Now, of course, this is Enoch's vision of the future, so we can assume that the 7 angels or the 7 false deities, that they come into power sometime after the Great Flood. Now, in theory, it was Nimrod in rebellion to the Lord who made a pact with these rebellious angels, because Nimrod too, he also wanted to become a deity. And this was the sole purpose of building the Tower of Babel, because he believed that you had to reach heaven or reach the sky in order to become a deity. All right. And in theory, Nimrod wanted rebellion against the Lord, who at this time they called Baal or Baal Shaddai, because Baal Shaddai knocked down the Tower of Babel. And as you know, confused everybody's speech, this is where we get the variation of languages from, of different languages. All right. So Nimrod then tries to take revenge on Baal Shaddai or Baal by confusing everybody with religion. All right, using the help of these 7 angelic beings. And as we go further into the discussion, you will see why I theorized this conclusion, as well as, other people have also come to the same conclusion when doing this research. All right. Now, also in theory, all right, Nimrod and the rebellious angels, they pretty much came up with this plan. All right, that wouldn't only be a religious attack against Baal Shaddai, but it would also allow Nimrod to bypass a Tower of Babel in order to deify himself. All right, so Nimrod made images of Baal everywhere. He made images of Baal out of everything. He made them out of wood and stone, and he made everybody worship everything as Baal, and every image as Baal. All right, so this made it easy for Nimrod and those rebellious angels to interject themselves into the worship of Baal and claim the title of worship, which is the worship that rightfully belonged to Baal Shaddai. Also, as an act of revenge on Baal Shaddai, Nimrod made everybody believe that Baal looked like an animal. And we're not talking about a lion or a bear or even a dragon. No, we're talking about a 4-legged cow or a bull. Now, this was a direct attack on the image of the Lord. All right, and we're not talking about a human with a cow's head or a bull's head. No, we're talking about a 4-legged cow or bull, ordinary bull, ate grass. All right, it was extremely disrespectful. And idols and images of ordinary cows and bulls became the world's most popular image of El and Baal Shaddai, thanks to the hatred of Nimrod and the Satans. All right. In fact, Nimrod himself was a Satan at this point, and he becomes a deity with the help of legends like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the birth of Tammuz. All right. But Nimrod also adds the worship of these 7 Elohim, we know as the 7 main deities of ancient Sumeria, which is like Anu, Enlil, Enki, Ninurgag. I don't know if I said that right. Nanya, Utu, and Yana. All right. And also like a 120-mile long snake, I think, named Bashu. All right. Now, this is just my theory and my hypothesis that this is done strategically to confuse people specifically about the 7 spirits of the Lord, making it easier at that time to influence the practice of polytheism. All right. Now, what do I mean by the 7 spirits of the Lord? Well, there are several verses about the 7 spirits of the Lord. For example, in Zechariah chapter 3, when Joshua is being anointed by the angel of the Lord, we can see that in verse 9, the Lord engraves in the stone that is laid before Joshua, and then he puts 7 eyes on the stone. In Zechariah 4, chapter 4, the angel of Yah, the angel of the Lord, shows Zechariah a vision of 7 lamps and 2 olive trees. All right. He then explains that the 7 lamps are the 7 spirits of the Lord, and that the 2 olive trees are the 2 anointed ones. All right, which is also described in more detail in the book of Revelations. But Zechariah is also informed that the 7 eyes that are on the stone are also the 7 spirits of the Lord that go throughout the world. So, and this is, this is as we read in verse 10. And also in the book of Isaiah, chapter 11, all right, We read in I think these are the first two verses, that the seven spirits of Yah will rest upon a descendant of Jesse, and who is the father of King David. And this person will be both man and Yah, which is once again corresponds with the book of Revelations. Now, in the first chapter of Revelations, we can see that the seven candlesticks are the Son of Man, as described in verses 12 and 13. And in verses 16, we see seven stars in his hand, and these stars are described as the angels, and the candlesticks are described as the churches. And in chapter 4, verse 5, we can see once again that seven burning lamps are the seven spirits of the Elohim. And in chapter 5, verse 6, the lamb that is slain, we can see has seven horns and seven eyes that are the seven spirits of the Elohim. So not only can we see that Yeshua is the fulfillment of Old Testament prophecy, but Yahweh or Yahweh has seven spirits, but it's still worshipped as one entity. All right. We can also assume that the knowledge of his seven spirits was passed down from generation to generation within the Israelite community, or even further than that, back to the sons of Noah. All right. But Nimrod most likely used his influence to persuade people that the seven spirits of the Elohim were all separate deities, and redirected the worship of Baal Shaddai to the worship of the seven angels that he convinced were the true deities, as well as this cow or calf being the true image of Baal Shaddai. All right. So many people adopted Nimrod's doctrine of polytheism, but many still chose to worship Baal as one deity. However, they still worshipped him as probably like a cow or a calf. So even though Abraham would have taught his descendants to worship Baal Shaddai, they most likely worshipped him as a cow or a bull or a calf or whatever. All right, now this is also easy for us to do when we read about Aaron and the Israelites in the book of Exodus chapter 32. This is while Moses was up receiving the law from the Lord. In his absence, all the Israelites, they started to worry. So they told Aaron, they asked Aaron, hey, can you make us some Elohim, make us some deities so that we can worship them? And you think that Aaron would have refused this task, but he said, sure. He took everybody's gold and he made them a golden calf, all right, or a golden bull, all right, and then said, these are the Elohim that brought you out of Egypt, all right. And in verse 5, he makes an altar to this golden calf, and then even tells everybody, hey, tomorrow we should have a feast in honor of Yahweh, all right. So this lets us know beyond a shadow of a doubt that the ancient Hebrews believed that the image of Yahweh was a four-legged cow or calf or bull, all right. So Nimrod was, he was a pretty sneaky devil for doing that, and his plan worked pretty good, all right. Now we can also observe this in the book of 1 Kings chapter 12. Now this is when the kingdom was split between Rehoboam and Jeroboam. All right, now Rehoboam ruled over Judah, and Jeroboam, all right, he ruled over the rest of Israel. But Rehoboam ruled over Jerusalem, which is where the temple was located. And Jeroboam, he was scared that all of his followers were going to go back to Rehoboam and worship, and because they were going to have to worship the Lord over there. So he came up with this plan. All right, he was telling everybody. He said, "Hey, you don't have to walk all the way to Jerusalem, right?" He said, "I'll bring the Elohim here to you." So what he does is he makes two golden calves. All right, he places one in Bethlehem and then one in Dan. All right, and he says, "Here are the Elohim that brought you out of Egypt." And of course, this was once again extremely disrespectful to the Lord, because the Lord already told everybody that Adam was the only creature that was in the Garden of Eden that he gave his image. And Adam didn't look like a cow. All right. This is why the Lord said that he didn't want any images. And even the stone altars, he didn't want them to be touched or polluted, all right, with hand tools. and that he wanted uncut rock, no sanding, no chiseling, just rocks stacked up neatly on top of each other. Because not only is an image offensive to the Lord, but it always steers you towards polytheism, as it was meant to do. So even though some people in the ancient times, they would have focused on Yahweh as a monotheistic system, when they applied the image of the cow or the bull to Yahweh, it now made it extremely difficult to separate the polytheistic belief incorporated with these images, because the images of Yah, being a cow or a bull, all right, also comes with this belief in these seven spirits that are not of Yah. In fact, it is so disrespectful that it makes Yah look like he is the weakest of all those deities. Because in this system of seven spirits, they believe that Yah or Yahweh was only one of those spirits, and that any of the other spirits could, take the place or the title of king or Be Elohim. All right, and since they believed that these were all different deities, they actually started to incorporate the belief that the deities procreated with one another to create more deities. All right, some examples of this are in ancient Sumerian belief, when you got Ayana, Anu, and Enki, but these three deities were actually supposed to be the holy trinity of Baal Shaddai. This was Nimrod's whole focus. This was his plan in the beginning, and he initiated this, kept it going. All right, so Enki, all right, Enki supposedly created man. Anu created the heavens and the earth, and Ayana, she pretty much fertilized everything, like supposedly gave everything life. All right, and these are all supposed to be deities of the water and the sun. All right, but now this is an obvious imitation attempt that these deities are actually trying to imitate the Lord. All right, as Anu, Enki, and Ayana, if you read about them, they're all accredited with the great flood. Now, there's even more evidence that these deities were trying to imitate Yah at that time, who was called Baal Shaddai. All right. So if we look at the deity called Anu, who was the ancient Samaritan creator of the deities, right? He fathered the deities. He's supposed to have created the skies and the earth, which was the heavens and the earth, right? And later on, we see that he evolves into these different counterparts, which we would have like Uranus, Cronus, and Saturn. All right. Now, all these deities are all the same, right? But look at the characteristics of these deities. Now, these deities, they created everything. They created the heavens and the earth and everything, but they are also paranoid, power hungry, and murderous. They're like these wicked deities who would kill their own children just to keep their children from ever gaining power or getting the throne. And also that these deities can be defeated, right? And that they were defeated. All right, so we see that Anu is defeated, and he was this paranoid, power-hungry deity who was defeated by one of his sons. All right, and how do we know that they're trying to say that this is the same deity as Yahweh? All right, so we'll just look at the day dedicated to the deity that created the heavens and the earth. All right, so that day is supposed to be the Sabbath day. But what do they, and by they I mean the powers that be, what do they call that day? Saturn Day, because that's the day that they dedicate to Saturn. All right, so this is where everything gets confusing, because Anu, who is the father of Inyana, takes her on as a consort. And this isn't something that is unusual within legends about the deities or mythology, as it varies from culture to culture. Stories change where brother or sister or even daughter or son become the consort of their mother or sibling or something like that. This really depends upon the culture. But anyway, it's very important to know about Inyana, because she becomes like this very powerful Satan. She's worshipped by many people and goes by many names, and she is also known as the mother of the deities, or the mother of the gods, as many would say. So it's important for us to learn about her. All right. So she's mainly accredited as being the deity of sex. And when I mean deity of sex, I'm not talking about a sexual act. I'm actually talking about gender. All right. So she's the deity of gender. She's responsible for giving everybody their gender. She's responsible for being able to change genders and change people's genders at will. So there's even a legend about her punishing some men by changing them or changing their gender and changing them into women. All right. Something else, it's not really important to know, but there's a legend that a spell was cast on her and that she became an extreme nymphomaniac, and that she went out and was performing sexual acts with both men and deities. All right. This legend kind of led to her becoming the deity of prostitution, as she is now known as Ishtar. All right. But at this time, when she is Inanna and Ishtar, she is still known as the Queen of Heaven, because she's still considered the wife of the creator of heaven and earth. All right. The Hebrews don't agree with this. They don't like her. She's actually worshipped all the way from, Sumerian and Egypt all the way up to ancient Babylon. In fact, in ancient Babylon, she becomes one of the most popular deities. All right. And like I said, she was worshipped as a protector of prostitution. And so mostly she was worshipped by many of the prostitutes. But then when she got to Babylon, she was worshipped as the deity of sexual acts now. And she was, they pretty much consider her the prostitute of the deities. And but they worshipped her a lot. The Hebrews around during that time in ancient Babylon gave her a nickname, which is Whore of Babylon, because of all the sexual acts that were performed in order to worship her. Okay, now this is important to know, in my opinion, because if we, look at the book of Genesis and also in the book of Enoch, we can see that the first time that a woman is created was for a man, and that angels did not have any women. There are no female angels, and this is why they lusted after women. So this would mean that Inanna, the deity of gender, is actually a male angel posing as a woman. Now, he or she has gone by many different names. It wasn't just Inanna. It was also, Ishtar, Astarte, Astora, Estor, and Ashura. And one that you may not know is Shahar. So these are all the different names that she has gone by and have been worshipped by. All right. And she is being considered the mother of all these deities, because they always considered her to be wife to Anu, who, as we know, they are trying to say, or the powers that be have tried to convince people that Anu is Yah or Baal Shaddai. All right. Now, we know that Yah does not have a wife and does not have a queen of heaven, and that he speaks out about it. All right. It actually provokes him to anger if we read in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 7, verses 17 and 18. All right. And there are actually several other verses, like in chapter 44, verses 16 and 19, and the verse in verses 24 and 27 of chapter 44. All right. However, now to the Hebrews, she was mostly known as Astarte or Shahar. All right. Now these are both the same goddess, right? Or deities. I'm sorry, deities, right? And she's supposed to be worshipped mostly by the Canaanites. All right. Shahar was worshipped as the morning deity. Like she brought on the morning. All right. So Shahar is also the same as Ishtar and Ayana, because Shahar is, like I said, she's considered the mother of the deities, and she is consort to the king of the deities, but she herself is, or he, whatever, is not the king of the deities. All right, she is considered the queen of the heavens. All right, but she does give birth or whatever to a deity named Enlil, and Enlil is the one who um, takes over as king of the deities. Now, as we can see, this deity is rebuked by the Lord in the Bible, but he isn't known as Enlil, he is known as Hillel. So his real name is Hillel. Now, we go to Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12. You can see that it reads, "Oh, how you have fallen from heaven, Hillel ben Shahar." Now, I remember that this was very interesting when I first learned that his name was Hillel, because Enlil or Hillel is a legend about him that he's actually defeated by his brother, and he is cast down into the underworld, where Enlil, he spends some time there and then becomes the ruler of the underworld, or Hillel becomes the ruler of the underworld, and that they name the underworld after him. And this is why it is called hell, because hell, or Sheol, which is actually how it is said in the Hebrew tongue, right? Or Sheol, in traditional Hebrew tongue. We say hell in English because we name it after the deity, or the deity that we say rules over the underworld. All right. And this isn't actually the first time. It's done many times. If you see his other counterparts like Hades, all right, Hades is named after the deity Hades. In fact, I think that we can look at his female counterpart, and she holds most evidence because his female counterpart has the exact same name. All right, so if we look at the Norse gods, the Norse deities religion, and we see that the daughter of Loki, who is the adopted son of Woden and brother of Thor, which is obvious that these are all, once again, these are the same deities playing the same roles. But his daughter becomes the deity of the underworld, and they named the underworld after her. Her name is Hel, Hel, and they named her realm after her, Hel. All right. Sometimes she also goes by Hela. So as you can see, this is the same deity. All right. This is a Hillel, and this is his female counterpart. Hel, from the Norse deities religions, is probably the most famous version of him, which is his female counterpart. And because most people will deny that he is actually named after the Hillel in the Old Testament, which is kind of weird, because that deity came before the Norse deities. All right. Now, I would also say that his star, as we know it, would be his Roman counterpart, which would be Pluto. All right. But, of course, at this time, Hillel isn't even really known as a star. He's known as many stars. Okay. So Hillel is known as the North constellation. All right. Later on, as he goes through this changes in different personas, and we go up into the Greco-Roman mythologies, he's given a star, the star of Pluto. It's kind of ironic that Hillel or Hillel, the Lord says, I'm gonna knock you down, right? And you look up there and you don't see Pluto's star. It's apparently it's always been hard to see, so it's just kind of ironic that it can be seen. But it is also said that he was the angel that walked, or he was one of the angels that walked in the garden, as described in Ezekiel 28, verses 12 through 19. Now, from this verse, we can see that the deity Melkart was the king of Tyre. It was the human ruler who was considered the prince of Tyre. But Melkart, the king of Tyre, all right, was the counterpart to the deity Hillel. So even though Hillel was in the Garden of Eden, as stated by Yah, he is not the angel called the dragon in the book of Revelations 12:9, who is Ha-Satan, all right, and the devil. So the question is, once again, who is Ha-Satan? All right. So now if we look more into the little story between the three spirits of Baal as the cow, we're not talking about the Lord. All right. We look and we see that Ayana has a son with Anu, and his name is Marduk, but they call him, Marduk. Right now, this is the deity who came and took the title from Hillel as king of the deities, or Ha-Satan. All right, this deity reigned as probably king of the Satans, probably just as long as Hillel, if not a little bit longer. All right, and he may have actually been the influence behind the serpent in the Garden of Eden, and the reason that the other six angels went into rebellion against the Lord. Now, the Bible describes angels as having both animal and humanoid parts, all right, and some look completely like animals. If you consider the four angelic beasts who praise the Lord before the throne, you can see that they may have separate parts on them. Maybe one has a human part, but these are animals that are considered angels, all right, and we know that angels came before man. And so we see that when the Lord creates the earth, he places animals down there, and then he puts man over them. All right. Just like there are angels in the heavens, and the Lord is over them. All right. So we can maybe even assume that since Marduk's symbol is of a dragon, that may be his angelic form, and this may be what he had in common with Leviathan, and this may be why Leviathan was easily influenced by Marduk. And in the Canaanite culture, he was considered the king of the deity, so they referred to him as Baal Marduk or Baal Marduk. All right, and his water counterpart was Baal Dagon. And sometimes as Baal, he was Baal Marduk is considered Baal Hadad or Baal Adad, and he was the Lord of the harvest and the Lord of the land. All right, with his counterpart, his brother being Baal Dagon, who was supposed to be Lord of the seas. All right, and their characteristics of being storm deities and deities of thunder. All right, so thunder was their main power that they were seen using. All right, now his Greek and Roman counterparts are Jupiter and Zeus, who are all thunder deities, storm deities, and they are all king of the deities. But the question is, what did ancient Israelites call this false deity? All right, now I hope you're ready for this, because most can't handle a lot of the truth that comes with these names, and there are some people who already know. All right, but the ancient Semitic counterparts to Marduk, Zeus, Jupiter, etc., is one of the most famous names of a deity in the world, probably to this day, and it is God. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but it's not. This deity is described as Ha-Satan, and may be the Satan in the book of Revelations. All right, his star is named after his Roman counterpart, which is Jupiter, and in Hebrew, God, which is they spell with a G-A-D. We're gonna talk about vowels later because there's a big problem with vowels, but when you look at it in Hebrew, it is spelled with just a G-D, and it's pronounced Gad. All right, and he is often called Baal Gad in the Bible, and he isn't just a thunder deity. He's also considered the embodiment of fortune and luck. He is the only deity referred to as fortune and as a deity at the same time. Now, I know what some of you are saying. Isn't there a tribe of Gad? Yes, it is. All right, because Leah, who was the wife of Jacob, as well as her sister Rachel, believed that Baal Shaddai most likely looked like a cow or a bull, a calf. All right, and apparently so did their father Laban. And if you believed Yah was a cow or a bull, most likely you believed in the other deities that were associated with that image of the cow or the bull, as I was saying earlier. All right, and we know for sure that they were idol worshippers, because if we look at Genesis chapter 31, verse 19, it says that Rachel stole the house idols from her father. Now, if we go to the earlier passages like Genesis 30, verses 10 and 11, we can see that Leah named God after the deity of fortune. So after we study the scripture in Hebrew, we can see that she praised the name of Gad before naming Jacob's son after Gad. All right. The reason that the English version says it means fortunate or because the troops come, which basically mean because of fortune, all right, is because remember, Gad, the counterpart of Marduk, the king of the deities at the time, was worshipped as the El, or the deity of fortune. So Gad was also worshipped as a female deity. All right. And you can see that they actually said that he embodied both, sometimes the female and the male spirit. And he also had a female counterpart named Fortuna. All right. But the Hebrews worshipped his male counterpart, Baal Gad, for wealth. All right. And many just called him Baal, placing him higher than Yah. And the worship of Baal Gad by the Hebrews angered Yah, all right, because they prayed to God for fortune and for luck and prosperity, and they only prayed to Yah when they had a problem. Now, if we look at Isaiah 65:11, the Israelites forsook Yah, forgot his holy mountain, and made offerings to the deities Gad and Mini, who were the deities of fortune and wealth. All right. So later, you can see that Gad becomes the deity of the harvest. All right, and a storm deity and a thunder deity, who is identical with Baal Hadad, Baal Hamid, Baal Adad, and Baal Marduk, etc. Okay, and in the book of Ezekiel, we can see that the Israelites turned their backs on Yah to worship the other deities as the ruling Elohim. Now, Yah knew that his people would have a problem with the worship of other deities. All right. This is why, even though the most important rules in the Ten Commandments are to love thy Elohim and to love thy neighbor, all right, we see that the number one rule, all right, is do not put any Elohim before or above him. And the second rule is no graven images. So even though the Lord suffered them to worship other deities, he drew the line at people worshiping these deities as ruling entities and their images. All right. So if we look in Ezekiel 20, Yahweh is very angry with the people because they disobeyed the Lord, made idols like their ancestors, and placed them above the Lord, even on high places. All right. The Lord even expresses his anger towards the disrespect of the Sabbath day, because the Sabbath is a day that is meant for the creator of the universe. And by making that covenant with the Israelites, he was giving them proof that he was the deity responsible for creating heaven and earth. And this was also meant to be a sign to other people that the creator of existence chose these people out of all the people of the earth to dwell among and bear his name. And the audacity of these people to take another people's deity and place it above the Lord was stupid and disgraceful, because even that deity worshipped Yah. And most people even consider the deities of Egypt to be false deities, or not, or actually just not real deities, but the Lord does consider them real entities. All right. And if they are real entities, they most likely were played by the Satans. All right. So we can read in Exodus chapter 12, verse 12, where Yah says that he will judge the Elohim of Egypt, letting us know that he ruled over them, which is observed in the plagues that represented the submission of the Egyptian deities to Yahweh or Yahweh. But even so, the descendants of the pre-Exodus Hebrews still worship deities of their ancestors for like luck and fortune. So if from studying world history and studying biblical history, I think it's safe to say that we can assume that God was a competing entity for the title of king against Hillel or Enlil. And their names vary from culture to culture, but their roles never seem to change. Gad becomes king of heaven. His brother Dagon becomes king of the seas, and Hillel or Enlil becomes king of the underworld after taking the title of ruler from their father. All right, so some of these deities will play several beings at one time within the same religion, but their dominating role and their title seems to usually stay the same, and that other cultures will know this and even accept this. So you'll have two different religions, but they'll be like, hey, your religion is just like mine. This is because they all come from the same source. In the Greco-Roman era, when Israel was conquered by Rome in the Neo-Babylonian Empire, the Romans also believed in God. They believed that God was a ruling deity, and since he was king of the deities, a storm deity, famous for using lightning, and a deity of luck, they just associated him with the deity of Zeus Bellos, and they merged their names together and called him Gadzooks. Now, many people will tell you nowadays that Gadzooks means God's hooks, and even though they claim to have a lot of evidence for this, it is historically inaccurate because God and Zeus predate Gadzooks. Therefore, it would be the root. All right. Now, it was Zeus who became Ha-Satan, king of the Satans. All right. And the people of Rome and Greece believed that these deities were real beings and that they dwelt among them and lived in the mountains of Olympus in Greece. All right. The people of Greece loved Zeus so much that they built a throne for him in Pergamos or in Pergamum, which is a city in Greece. And they did this so that Zeus would sit among them instead of perching on Mount Olympus. So if we look in Revelations chapter 2, verses 12 to 13, we see that Zeus, who is worshipped in Pergamos, is labeled as Ha-Satan by the Lord. All right. Zeus soon becomes Jupiter if you look at the evolution of their mythology. All right. And Jupiter, of course, is supposed to be the biggest star that you can see in the night sky. But the throne made for Zeus isn't the only proof that these deities physically were seen by people. But you can go to the book of Acts, chapter 14, verses 12. And we see that when Paul and Barnabas come into Lystra, which is a city in ancient Greece, Paul healed a crippled man who had been crippled since birth. Now, the people of Greece who witnessed this thought that Paul and Barnabas were Zeus and Hermes, or their Roman counterpart, Jove, or Jupiter and Mercury. Now, this would give me the impression that that these deities were witnessed by the people and performed similar miracles in the sight of these people. All right. And it, like I said, it is Zeus who is named as Ha-Satan in the book of Revelations. And as we see, this is where we start to learn about the warning of Jude, or the warning of Jude, because it is the Roman pagan belief that crept into the worship of Yah, and just like wolves in sheep's clothing. All right, teaching the worship of the Satans as the worship of Yah, and even placed the Queen of Heaven on a pedestal higher than Yah. In fact, it is Ishtar or Ayana, Yeshua refers to as the coming prince or male ruler of this world. All right. So, like I said, don't forget, this is a male entity playing as a female deity. The same one who has been Ishtar, Astora, and like we said, Shahar, who is the deity of the morning. All right. Now, his or her star is named after her Roman counterpart, which is Venus. All right. And it is now Venus who shines as the morning or the evening star, just like Shahar. All right. But the Romans did not show evidence of this star being the brightest in the sky until about, 30 BC. All right. Before that, they recorded Jupiter as being the brightest star in the sky. All right. So in theory, the ruling deity takes the position of the morning star as a place of power. In Revelations, this position of power will be given to the followers of Yeshua, who overcome the world, as written in, like I said, Revelations chapter 2, verses 26 through 28. All right. So Ishtar's rulership is signified by the position held by Venus in the sky. And the worship of this deity has become a common practice among believers of Yah and non-believers, willingly and unwittingly, all right, being taught Venus worship as good moral ethics, and it is also being forced down the throat of the younger generation. All right, so let's do some comparison. We have the United States that uses a gigantic idol of Ishtar as their national landmark. All right, letting us know that the U.S. is dedicated to the whore of Babylon. Ayana was the deity of sex change, and now sex change is seen as heroic, brave, and worthy practice. All right, Ishtar is a male, making her relationship with God or Zeus or any man a homosexual one. Now, the traditional heterosexual relationship is considered close-minded and offensive, and people even say that Gad is a woman. All right, Ishtar was also the deity of prostitution and the divine protector of female prostitutes. Now, women who are known for whoremongering have become famous in the face of the media and are role models for millions of young and even older female followers. Ishtar and Ayana, Oshana, whatever you want to call her, is also the deity of magic and witchcraft. Now, the practice of magic among women has become the most popular practice in the world. All right. Venus has always shown a sexist attitude towards the male gender. Now we are living in the midst of the goddess movement, where women have women attack and demasculate, all right, strong men. Now it is popular to refer to female rulers, all right, as queens, but now they're changing that. Now they want you to refer to female rulers as kings. All right, kings, a title given to a male ruler. All right, and this is to praise Ishtar, the transgender warrior goddess. So now we can move on to where you can now read the book of Jude, book of Judah, and you can begin to interpret it on another level, because now you can understand it, because you're looking at it through the point of view of the people who actually lived during that time. You're like, okay, you can now understand the warning written within those pages. All right. And we just covered, basically the main deities, but the truth is there are many, many deities, all right, and because it's not just angels that are worshipped, but it's also demons that are worshipped and spirits that are worshipped, all right, and that's for something else. We'll cover that another time, but anything worshipped is now put into this box, this category of deity. So you really have to be careful on who you pray to, because that deity will answer and will, bless you. Okay. Now, let us go over, the difference between the worship of Yah and the worship of this mystery religion that we see that Jude is warning about, the worship of God. All right. The worshipers of Yeshua will know his voice and worship Yah and follow the laws of Yeshua, while those who worship God mostly reject the teachings of the Torah and the Tanakh, and usually give more attention to the pseudepigraphas than the words of Yeshua. The worshippers of Yah will study and cling to his words as Yeshua, while worshippers of God will resist the labor, or usually try to resist the labor of studying his words, mostly with the excuse that they prayed to God. All right. Now, followers of Yeshua, they know that if we do not follow his commandments, then he takes it as a sign we do not love him. All right. But followers of God will say, God knows my heart, as an excuse to disregard commandments of Yeshua. All right. Now, those who follow Yeshua, they still practice the parts of the law that were not fulfilled by the ultimate blood sacrifice. All right. While followers of God have completely thrown out the laws of Yah and Yeshua, saying that we are not under the law. All right. So those who follow God worship him and pray to him for money, fortune, fame, power, material gain, while Yeshua teaches us to reject the dependency of material gain. And he teaches that instead of material gain, that we are supposed to rely completely on the Lord for food, water, and shelter. All right. Those who worship God still practice the traditions and the holidays that are dedicated, all right, to the old deities, while those who worship Yah still try to practice the holy days that have not been fulfilled or affected by the blood sacrifice. Followers of God say you do not need to be baptized in order to enter the kingdom. But followers of Yeshua know that he went around baptizing. He told his disciples to baptize. He himself was baptized. And even in John chapter 3, verse 5, he says, unless you are born again of water and the Spirit, you cannot enter the kingdom. The followers of Yeshua believe that the name of the Father is Yah, while the followers of God believe that his name is Jove or Jehovah, which historically belongs to Jupiter. The followers of Yeshua know that they were not to make any images of him, but the followers of God went from painting Jesus looking like a descendant of ancient Israelites to looking like a descendant of Zeus or Jupiter. God blesses his prophets and his followers with money, fame, fortune, but Yeshua teaches that the greatest of his prophets will be materially poor but spiritually rich, as we can see in Luke 7:24 through verses 28. God blesses his people with God Lucius, or good luck. Most people will believe that the word luck comes from Lucan. It does, but they believe that Lucan is a derivative of from Luke. But Lucan comes from Lucius, which comes from Lucas, which comes from Lucius, which comes from Lucius and Lucifer, and they all mean light or bringer of light. Good luck is good Lucifer. Those who follow Yeshua will experience bad Lucifer. They will experience hard times as they confront or contend against this other deity. All right. This can be observed in Yeshua's sermon, which is given, as I like to read in the book of Luke, of course, as you can see, in the book of Luke, chapter 6, verses 20 through 26. In fact, Yeshua makes a very powerful statement. We can head on over to the book of Matthew on this one, actually, and we can go to chapter 6, verse 24. And he says, you cannot worship Elohim and Mammon. All right. Now, a lot of people don't actually know what Mammon is. A lot of people says that Mammon comes from Mamona, which means wealth. Some people say it just means money, or it basically just means fortune. All right. And however, Yeshua is referring to it as both fortune and a deity that is competing for the worship of Yah. Right now, the name represents both fortune and the deity. All right. So we know that this most likely is Gad. And this could have been a way of hiding his name, because we know that during this time, this was the deity that was worshipped as both fortune and a deity. And other scholars and other people who have studied the history and studied the word have come to the same conclusion. All right, that it says basically in Matthew 6:24, Yeshua says, you cannot serve two masters. You cannot worship the Elohim and God. All right. So the truth is that Yah does not want us to choose him based on material gain. All right. And he allows God to attack his followers, because even though God is a mischievous angel, he is still used by Yah, all right, to separate the wheat from the tares. Now, if you are a follower of Yah and you are having a very good life, let me tell you, you're doing something very wrong, because God, the deity of luck, should hate you. All right. All of his angels, all the demons, even his human followers, all right, should be in the act of constantly testing your faith and trying to defeat you or even kill you. And throughout the majority of your walk with the Lord, God should be trying to destroy your life, depending on how close your walk with Yeshua is. Now, if you are a true prophet of Yeshua, and I'm not saying I am, if you are, all right, if you are a true prophet of Yeshua, all right, then the deity God will attack your health, your fame, your fortune, all right, in an attempt to make you poor, broken, and undesirable to the world. That's why Yeshua says, if you are experiencing these things, then you need to rejoice, because it is a sign that you made it into the kingdom. All right. Now, I'd like to thank everybody for listening, listening to the discussion. Hopefully now I've given you some tools to where you can research into history and look for yourself, and you can research the word and you can look for yourself. And of course, you can read the book of Jude, and you now have more understanding when you read it. Check me out next time, as we're actually going to be talking about the Messiah and how he is actually found. The word Messiah is actually found in the Old Testament. And we're actually going to be talking about how the Lord gives us a prophesied name that we are supposed to call him, all right, before the kingdom is united. So we'll be talking all about that next time, and how seriously important those things are, because they affect us right now. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.